by the way, for those who are listening, because it took me about 9 years before, I knew that there were opportunities at large brokerages like Marsh, you know,
Hmm.
you know, you, if you move into this space, particularly if you've gone to a 4-year degree, if you've gone to a 4-year institution, you've gotten a degree, you've had some professional experience, um, you can go into a brokerage, and if you're really excelling, get into a leadership track or just kind of start your career there and really not only learn a lot, but meet a lot of people, start a phenomenal career and really, I mean, get into the top 5, 3, and even 1% of income earners in this country. And
Correct.
no one is saying this. It's almost like a secret. It's almost like it's meant to be a secret. Marsh is like the largest brokerage in the world, by the way, but they're one
In the
of the they're
world.
they're one of the top 10. I mean, there's a lot of big brokers out there, but I'm like, man, you can actually go and work for these companies. I thought
Yeah.
that was so phenomenal. Like learning that after the fact, because when people think about the industry, even getting licensed, they think that you have to be, just the agent that goes to sell to a family and sit at the kitchen table. And there's like so many other paths that you can take. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hop in, man. Okay, so we're
No,
at
but
Marsh.
it's important. It's
Yeah.
important. Like, this is a very important part of the discussion that I feel like unfortunately gets lost sometimes, which is the fact that, like, just because you have a license doesn't mean that you are required to be a salesperson, right? There are so, like, 98% of the people that work at these large brokerages, Marsh being an example, I think they have like 60 or 70,000 people that currently work for them. They only have like, oh, but so many actual sales producers that are
Yeah.
going out pounding pavement trying to win business. The other people that work at that business, like, they help with things like growing the account, right? Like growing the actual size of the relationship that you might have with Amazon or Tesla or Microsoft, as well as the people that are just technicians that have they're licensed insurance professionals, but they became an expert in cyber insurance or in workers' compensation or directors and officers insurance. Like there's like these are very, very smart, highly educated, but also, like, the barrier to entry here is typically you need a 4-year degree, which a part of what we're doing on the Safari side is to be able to remove some of those barriers. But all you really need is a license. And then at that point, like, if you have a good personality, you're willing to work hard, like, you will outperform 99% of people in this industry. Like, there are a lot of C players in this industry. And it's one of the jokes that a lot of people go out and make when they're like, do I want to go out and work at an investment bank and work with like people that were physicists before and that, they're just like brilliant minds, and or do I go work in insurance? And knowing that, like, unfortunately, because it's so like there's so much nepotism in the industry, there's just a lot of people that like really can't cut it at the high level, right? So you can differentiate yourself very, very quickly, and there are so many different paths that you can take.
Somebody's nephew is an executive vice president just because they're somebody's nephew. I mean,
Correct.
the reality is, you know, um, it's a it's just a matter of exposure.
Mm-hmm.
It's knowing that these opportunities are out there, and once again, like, I just have to go back to the fact that when you're in school, I mean, you went to good colleges. You
Mm-hmm.
University of Maryland, Dartmouth. You would think that the carriers would be coming to say, hey, this is where we're coming to find our next crop. You would think that, but not
Nope.
necessarily the case, and that's why I said it's almost one of those things where it's like the opportunities are intentionally hidden,
Yep.
because we want certain individuals to know that these types of positions exist, and you can do a quick Google search, a LinkedIn search, you can see who's at these organizations. You'll see who really is entrenched in the day to day of
So,
working there, but for you to find that and be exposed to that early, one, thanks to your mom, just amazing for her to be in that space, because she's in an HR role, number one,
mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
that's in a place where she's kind of guiding the direction of her segment of the organization, but for you to
Exactly.
be see that and be influenced by it and say, hey, maybe there's something to this, I'll go ahead and take the shot. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure while you're working on those cases, there's events that you have to attend, you
Oh,
know,
all the
hey, we got to
time.
go to this game because this client is here. You
All the
know,
time, all the time. Listen, it's fun, man. Like last week, I was out at an event with Zurich Insurance, so they're a very large carrier, global insurance and reinsurance carrier. And just for the folks online, obviously, carrier, they're the folks that actually take on the risk. That work directly with the agents and brokers who bring them the risks, right? So we had the opportunity to be in the same room as Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, the prime minister of Ukraine, Zelensky, as well as Janet Yellen, who's the Treasury Secretary. Like that, and they had a table at the event. They had to bring out one of their broker partners for the event just because technically we're their client. And it just provides you with so much exposure, right? Like there are so many different types of events that pop up, and there are so many different like opportunities that you have to go out and like really just like network with. Like I think the reason that a lot of these events exist is for networking purposes and business development and the like. But I say all that to say, like, Zurich is buying a table at that type of event, right? Marsh is buying a table at that type of event. So that kind of gives everyone kind of like a good, hopefully, understanding of like, these are large organizations that are very sophisticated in the types of businesses that they are pursuing, but also in the type of business that they do. So it's unfortunately, insurance gets a bad rap because people kind of have like this one thought about it, but like it is such a sophisticated, layered type of industry.
this is why you're here, bro. This is why you're here sharing this knowledge,
They need to
because
hear it.
the perception from the average consumer perspective about insurance is just completely wrong.
Correct.
It's just wrong.
So off base.
And it's been marketed wrong.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's been marketed wrong on purpose.
I agree.
That's just me. Because
I agree.
it's designed to keep certain people away from it.
Correct. Because to your point before, right? Like AIG, like listen, all these big businesses, AIG, Zurich, Marsh, etc., they'll all be on campus. Typically, they're going to devote the majority of their resources to the risk management and insurance programs, and they'll kind of backfill with other colleges throughout the country. But there's a very particular kind of way that they go about their recruitment, which is, hey, intern slots just opened up, email blast saying, do you know of anyone? And then everyone comes back and they're like, I've got Timmy's resume, I've got Tom's resume, etc. down the line, all the people that are the executives their suggestions get pushed through first, and then it just kind of works its way down there. So that's why you have kind of this cycle.
It's coming internal, typically.
Exactly.
100%. It's coming internal first. And hey,
exactly.
My kid, I mean, listen, if my son was there, hey, I can't
I can't fault them. Absolutely not. But it's real. And that's just the nature of the business, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so we're at Marsh, 4 years, doing great there. What's the next step for you? Because I want to get to how you take this experience and say, you know what, I'm going to create a channel for talent development in this space.
Absolutely. So leave Marsh in 2017. I quit my job. I go back to business school full time, move up to the woods up in New Hampshire, we can talk about that in a separate episode, because that was an experience and a half. But I kind of went in knowing that I wanted to stay in insurance, but I wanted to kind of round out my skill set, right? So the reason that I kind of left was not to say that I didn't want to necessarily be a broker for the rest of my life, since obviously I'm a broker now, but really kind of what I wanted to do was I wanted to become dangerous, knowing that like I can go out and I can raise money for an insurance company. I can learn how to value an insurance company. I can understand the entire value chain, right? Because one of the things we haven't even talked about, right, is there's an insured and there's a carrier and there's an agent and a broker in between. Yeah. But we haven't even talked about the wholesale brokerages or the managing general agencies and all. It's deep, right? There are so many different segments of this business that present opportunities from a career perspective. So I just knew that like staying at that organization for the rest of my career just was never going to work for me. So I ended up leaving to go back to business school full time. Got an internship at an investment bank named Evercore in between my first and my second year. Ended up getting an offer to return back. And during that summer, I was covering insurance companies. So I worked on a $1 billion transaction of a large carrier buying a managing general agency to basically expand into a new segment of the business. So that's where I started to become dangerous, because at that point, it's like, okay, I understand how these companies make money, which is the most important thing here. Like, once you understand how a business makes money, you will forever be dangerous and you will forever be valuable from a hiring perspective. So I learned how they made money, and I learned the speak, or the lingo, for lack of a better term, right? Like, I understood kind of like the way that they would value a business. I understood the way that you need to be able to approach essentially selling an investment opportunity to a large investment firm that might want to go out and buy an insurance company, or that might want to invest in an insurance company. So at that point, like, that really just kind of gave me a solid foundation in, I understood brokerage, but I also now understood corporate finance of insurance companies, which was vital. So I ended up graduating from business school in 2019, ended up joining Evercore full time, and was there for a little under 2 years, and had the opportunity to work on a variety of different mergers and acquisitions and capital raising projects for insurance companies specifically. So I'm sure the name that everyone hears about is Acrisure or Hub International, or any of those other businesses right now that are going out and gobbling up all the agencies in your local area. We know exactly what they're doing. I used to sit behind a computer at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, updating a financial model that basically says, okay, you guys can go out and buy 30 agencies this year. This is the amount of money that you have. This is the valuation that you can basically buy them for to make that whole transaction work. So I did a lot of that type of stuff, and it really just kind of put me in a place to where that laid the foundation for the entrepreneurial journey that I'm on today.
Yeah, that is amazing. That is amazing. So here's what's really unique in that journey. You started on the broker side.
Mm-hmm.
Spent some time there. You were able to refine your skills and knowledge in that space. But you said, hey, look, I know that there's more. And then you went over to the investment banking side so that you could understand what was behind the curtain. So you got out in front, and then you say, hey, I'm gonna go behind, and I'm gonna peek under the hood.
Yep.
And see what's happening. And now, oh, bro.
Now you're dangerous. You're dangerous.
Listen. Okay. All right. So you end up spending some time in investment banking. You went back. Do you feel like, I mean, you got your MBA.
Mm-hmm.
What value do you feel like that brought to your career in insurance? This is a sidebar, because some people say, I don't need it. Some people say, you definitely should have it. What do you think?
I think, listen, if we're going to be candid here, like, it's a stamp of approval, right? So like, when I have to go out and, let's say, if I'm, for example, right now, as we're going through the fundraising process for all the acquisitions that we're trying to do over the next 3 to 5 years, people are always going to check you, right? And they're always going to say, what's this person's background? What is their skill set to be able to execute on this particular vision or mission that they've set out to do, that they've laid out in any investment deck that they might put together. So for me, I think it's the stamp of approval, knowing that, like, no one can ever take away the fact that I have a top MBA degree on my resume. But I think it's very, I would say that it's very circumstantial, right? Like, if you're using an MBA to be able to get ahead in your career within a specific organization, I would say that you could probably go out and do it part-time without having to take on $200,000+ in debt to be able to make that work, right? Like, have your company sponsor you, and then you can go out and make that work, right? But if you're trying to go the entrepreneurial route and, like, really get the stamp of approval that you need, like, getting an MBA program, possibly, like, stepping out of the workforce for a bit to go full time, is definitely something that I would suggest. I would say it definitely kind of gave me an understanding of that, but, like, also you start to kind of see that, like, the people that have gone out and done extraordinary things, or, like, particularly within the world of business, like, they're just regular folks, right? Like, they had good degrees, a lot of them, for one reason or another, how they got into the school, like, that's a whole different kind of discussion. But, like, at the end of the day, you really start to get around to the fact that, like, all of these CEOs and these people that like you interact with on a day-to-day basis or that you like might idolize, whatever, they're just regular folks. And, you know, they just happen to just kind of go out and get their degree there. So it almost like made me a little bit more skeptical of the types of people that are in leadership roles. Not to say that they're not extremely good at what they do, but it just kind of humanized them for me because we were around so many of them as we were going through our education. So I think that that was like one thing, like as I kind of think about like when the switch kind of like went off in my head around, all right, Jelani, like you can make a bet on yourself and you can go out and start a business of your own or acquire a business of your own, knowing that like a lot of the folks that have done it before me, they were just regular people. Like, and that was probably the most valuable thing that I kind of took away from it, is just recognizing that these are just regular folks that are going out there that are just super motivated, but also, again, they're just regular people.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically you're saying, hey, look, it's attainable either way. You know,
Absolutely.
it's
Absolutely.
it's about
Absolutely.
what you